Hello everyone, good morning. Myself Muralidhar Reddy, I'm a DevOps consultant and solution architect. Now we are going to discussing about what is Jenkins pipeline and what is Jenkins file, types of Jenkins file, everything we can discuss one by one. So here we have a DevOps 0 to Hero series. In this particular DevOps 0 to Hero series, day 21, Jenkins pipeline. I already written that documentation as well. We can get some idea. Later we can see the practical as well. Understand, right? And first of all, what is Jenkins pipeline? So here, before going to understanding Jenkins pipeline, first you need to be understand. We already discussing a freestyle job, right? Jenkins freestyle job. So what is the drawback of using Jenkins freestyle job? Inside the Jenkins freestyle job, you need to set up step-by-step process. Example, clone the repository, build the code, integrate with the Nexus and push the artifact to Nexus or JFrog, deploy that application, the Tomcat, everything, right? So we have to define one by one step-by-step process inside the Jenkins job. So instead of defining the inside the Jenkins job, right? What we can do using Jenkins pipeline, we have an option Jenkins file. There will be define the steps. So once we clone that, once we configure with the Jenkins, what is happened, right? Everything it will be configured. You don't require to go to manually go to the Jenkins job and build that code. Define the clone the repository, build discarder, okay, timestamp. Everything you don't require to set up manually. Everything it will be automation only. Okay. And one more thing, when you use the Jenkins pipeline, it will be display that the what you can say like step-by-step process. Example, clone the repository and view. It will be display the view as well. Clone the repository, build the code, and push the artifact either in Nexus or JFrog or Docker Hub. Everything will be see that one. I will show you later sometime so that you will get some idea. Now we can go with the what is Jenkins pipeline. In simple terms, Jenkins pipeline is a set of plugins that support the continuous integration and continuous delivery workflow. Okay, using this Jenkins pipeline, inside the Jenkins pipeline, we will be define everything, whatever we did in Jenkins freestyle job. Here, it is allows to define and automate the steps needed to build that application, test the application, deploy your application using scripted language called that is pipeline DSL. DSL is nothing but domain specific language. Okay, when you write this particular this the DSL format, it will be there, the particular Jenkins pipeline, and you don't want to worry on this one. Everything is simple only. First, you need to be understand how you will be write the Jenkins file so that you can easy to implement anything, any complicated one also you can easy to implement. And here you can see that key features, right? One is automate the software development process and support complex workflows with branching, parallel execution, and error handling. It will be support and also enables pipeline as a code through version control system. Inside the version control system, we'll be create the Jenkins file. There will be defined, and we will be call that particular Jenkins file inside the Jenkins job. Okay, I will show you these are the major key features, and here you can see that, as I said, in case if you want to be set up the Jenkins pipeline, there are two options, guys. One is either inside the Jenkins job, we have a Jenkins file GUI. A second option is we can define the Jenkins file inside the GitHub repository. So here, what exactly Jenkins file? Okay, and Jenkins file is a test file that contains the definition of Jenkins pipeline. What I'm to say, like, if you want to be set up the Jenkins pipeline for the build job, then what you have to do here, the particular inside the Jenkins file will be inside the Jenkins file will be define everything step by step process. The particular whatever contains the definition of your Jenkins pipeline, and it is stored along your source code. It means like we can store that Jenkins file inside the GitHub, either GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. There will be defined our in the source repository. Example, we have a user icon registration application. There in the root path will be create the Jenkins file, and we can define if you want. Okay, clear, right? And then here you can see that it allows you to implement pipeline as a code, which means your CI/CD processes, version control, and also easy reviewable. If some in case if you want to be review, right, we can easy to review that particular Jenkins file. If you want to be modify, you can do that easily, and reusable as well. If you have a multiple applications, same Jenkins file we can use it. You don't require to do modification when we are using. All the options are parameterized one. If you remember in the Jenkins job, we have a build with parameters, right? Same thing we can define inside the Jenkins file, so that the same Jenkins file we can use it wherever required, any application. Understand it? And also portable as well. You got it right? And coming to the what are the major benefits of using Jenkins file? One is pipeline as a code. Inside the pipeline as code, like we can define, we can edit, and we can version your CI/CD process like your application code. Similarly, application code, right? We can define and we can edit, and if we can versioning that particular one. And consistency across environment. It means like one Jenkins file can work across all branches, pull request. Single Jenkins file, guys, we can deploy in the dev, test, QA, UAT, pre-prod, prod, all the environment we can deploy it. And collaboration, multiple developers can collaborate to the pipeline configuration. Here you have to remember one thing, guys. Usually, most of the organization, that Jenkins file will be read by DevOps team only, not the developer. But some of the organization, they may developer also, they can write that particular Jenkins file. But very rare cases, 99% as a DevOps engineer only, we will be write the Jenkins file and will be handed over to developers. Okay, clear, right? Fine. And auditability, here, as I said, we can create the Jenkins file inside the GitHub repository. Example, there, if you done any modification, right, it will be create that commit ID. If you want to be do any rollback also, revert back also, we can do that one. Any changes to the pipeline as tracked via source control. Understand, right? And here, as I said, Jenkins file, we can define two ways. One is web UI. It means inside the Jenkins job, we can directly define that particular Jenkins file related configuration, step-by-step process. Second option is we can create a Jenkins file. The particular Jenkins file will be defined inside the GitHub repository. We can call that particular Jenkins file when you are running calling that particular Jenkins. Okay, when you are triggering the Jenkins or when you are creating the Jenkins, during that time we will be call this particular Jenkins file. Understand, right? Any questions now? Any questions? So now we can discuss about types of syntax in Jenkins file, and then I will show you how do we create the Jenkins pipeline so that you will get some idea. So here you can see that usually, guys, when you are writing the Jenkins file, there are two types of syntaxes. One is declarative pipeline. Second one is scripted pipeline. Declarative pipeline and scripted syntax. Declarative syntax and scripted syntax. First, we can discuss about declarative syntax. If you observe here, especially, guys, it is a simpler and more structured one and easy for beginners. If you want to write anything, right, we can easy to write that particular Jenkins file, and we can create the Jenkins pipeline, and we can build that one. We can clone the repository, we can build that one, everything we can do that. Okay, here when you're writing the declarative pipeline, example I'm mentioning here, right? Pipeline, open close command, open close, and here you can see that agent any. Agent any is nothing but when you define this particular Jenkins file, this particular one, where it is going to be running, whether it is going to be running to master node, whether it is going to be running to slave node. Example, if you define here, whatever is available, whether it is master node or slave node, whatever it is available, it is going to be run this particular Jenkins job to the particular either master node in the worker node. And here, in case if you want to be define specific, this particular job needs to be run the specific slave node, what you can do, agent, we can define the label, we can define the label name. We can define the label name. Now what will happen is this particular Jenkins job will be run the particular label only. Okay, it means the particular worker node only. And here you can see the stages and stage and steps. Here just example, we are using echo command building. Okay, and here you have to remember, guys, this particular syntax we already discussed. I mean, this particular syntax will be write it, and also I will show you later sometime how do we write the Jenkins file using declarative pipeline so that you will get some idea. And these are the mandatory fields, guys, inside the Jenkins file when you are writing the declarative syntax, right? These are the mandatory fields. One is pipeline tag, agent, stages, stage, steps. Inside the stages, we can define a multiple stage. Inside the stage must be one steps required. Again, I'm repeating, we have a pipeline, agent any means where you want to be run this particular job, whether it is master node or slave node, and stages. Inside the stages, remember, inside the pipeline, we can define only one stages. Inside the stages, we can define the multiple stages. Example, clone the repository, build the code, I mean, push the artifact to the next stage. We can define multiple stages. Okay, multiple, not the stages, guys, multiple stage. Okay, inside the stage must be, we need to be define the steps. Inside the steps, you can define anything. Example, if you want to be run, if you want to be run that shell script, if you want to be run the bash script, everything you can run it here. Clear, right? Fine. And coming to the scripted syntax, this is uses fully Groovy syntax. and offers more flexibility for complex workflows. Okay. If you have any complex workflow, right, we'll be use this particular scripted syntax. And here you can see that example node, open, close, and stage and echo we mentioned. Here you have to remember 99% will be used in organization level, will be used the declarative syntax. This is enough for setting up the Jenkins pipeline. But if you have any of the organization, any of the project, if they have any complicated one, okay, then they will be use this particular scripted syntax. And one more thing, one of the most important, inside the Jenkins file, we can define both declarative syntax and scripted syntax. We can define both. We can use it parallelly. We can use both inside the Jenkins file. We can define both declarative syntax and scripted syntax. But 99% guys will be use this particular declarative syntax only, and also it is recommended as well. Clear, right? We will be will be write how do we write that particular Jenkins file. Later I will discuss so that you will get some idea. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, now you understood it, what exactly pipeline and what are the features providing the pipeline, and also what is Jenkins file, what are the benefits of using Jenkins file, what are the syntaxes available in Jenkins file, everything, right? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the sample one. Now here you can, I log into the jenkins.techworldwithmurali.in, and here you can go to the new item. And then here example, I'm creating the Jenkins pipeline. Okay. Example I'm giving guys, Jenkins pipeline. Jenkins pipeline. And here, most important, here you can select the pipeline, select this one, click OK. Now what will happen, right? It is going to be create the Jenkins pipeline. Now here will be defined. If you see here, freestyle job will be having that clone the repository, build the code, everything you can see it. But when it comes to the pipeline, right, it will showcase the only few of the things. Everything will be defined inside the Jenkins file only. And here you can say the discard old builds, and also don't allow concurrent builds, everything, right? Instead of selecting this like this, what you can do, we can write inside the Jenkins file. It is once you save this one, it is when you run that next build, right, it is automatically apply that particular changes. I will show you later sometime, you will get some idea. And here you can see that a build after other project will periodically. If you use the cron tab, we can use it. Trigger, poll sim also we can use it if you want. And here most important, as I said, Jenkins file, there are two options. One is pipeline script. It means we can define the Jenkins file script here only directly inside the Jenkins job. Okay. Example, if you see here, hello world, and here you can mention the pipeline agent any stages, stage, hello, steps, hello, world. Just example I'm showcasing guys. Here we can define like this. Second option, right? You can select that pipeline script SCM. Here we can define that particular Git, and here you can define that your GitHub URL and what are the credentials and what is the branch name. Everything can define, and here you can see that script path, right? We can create the Jenkins file. Example, here we have a user registration. We can create the Jenkins file in this particular home directory, and then we can run the particular one. I will show you later sometime both options. You will get some idea. Highly recommend. We always use the, we will be create the Jenkins file in the GitHub repository, and then we'll be call the particular Jenkins file inside the Jenkins job. Clear, right? Later I will show you. Don't worry on that one. Just this the theory part and how exactly it will be happen. Later I will show you hello world sample one, and also build the clone the repository, build the code, put the artifact to either Nexus or JFrog, build the Docker image. Everything I will be show you using this particular Jenkins only. Clear, right? Any questions now? Any questions now? And here you have to remember one thing, guys. One of the most important, in real time, 99% of the organizations will be use the Jenkins pipeline only. Few years back, I think around 5 to 6 years back, we were using Jenkins freestyle job. But currently, any organization, they are using Jenkins pipeline only. Everything will be write the Jenkins file, and we will be define each and every step, and will be run the particular Jenkins pipeline only. Okay, we won't be use the freestyle job currently. Everyone, any organization, any project, they are using the Jenkins pipeline only. So if you say like I'm not aware of Jenkins pipeline in intro level, they can immediately know one thing. First thing is you haven't worked in the real time. The reason, whoever working the real time, they must be aware of this particular Jenkins pipeline. Any organization, they will be use the Jenkins pipeline only. First thing. Second thing is, if you say you are not aware of this particular Jenkins pipeline, no one will hire you. Honestly, I'm telling guys, no one will hire you if you are not aware of Jenkins pipeline. How do we write the Jenkins file? How do we define the step-by-step process? Everything, if you are not aware, no one will hire you. So be careful on this one. Jenkins, as I said, Jenkins is one of the backbone of DevOps. but Jenkins pipeline is one of the backbone of Jenkins. Understand, right? So you should be aware of Jenkins pipeline, and also we do have Jenkins share libraries as well. This two is more important. I'm going to explain everything in detail from scratch. You don't want to worry on that one, but just you have to be follow step-by-step process. Okay, you will get some idea. Any questions now? Now we are going to discussing about what is the difference between declarative and scripted pipeline. We discussed right earlier declarative and scripted syntaxes, right? We can call it as a pipeline as well. So how do we, what is the major difference? We can see that. So for that one, here we have a DevOps 0 to Hero series, 321 Jenkins pipeline. And here I already written the documentation as well. We can see that so that you will get some idea. So earlier we discussed the Jenkins pipeline, Jenkins file and types of, what are the benefits of using Jenkins file and the syntaxes, right? So here we can see the differentiation, and coming to that, features and declarative pipeline and scripted pipeline. When it comes to the syntax style, right? In the declarative pipeline, it is structured one, high level syntax. But when it comes to the Groovy, this particular scripted pipeline, it is Groovy based scripting. So if you want to be understand, if you want to be write a scripted pipeline, what you have to do, right? You should be basic idea about Groovy. You should be basic idea about Groovy. And coming to that easy of use, and here easy to learn. When it comes to the declarative pipeline, we can easy to learn and also recommended for most users. And when it comes to the scripted pipeline, more flexible but requires Groovy knowledge. As I said, we require the Groovy knowledge to understand this particular scripted pipeline. And here you have to remember whether it is easy or difficult doesn't matter in terms of in the real time, but the reality 99% will be use the declared pipeline only. It will be suitable for us in the real time. In case if required additional advanced logic, right? What we can do, we can use the scripted pipeline as well. And one more thing, single Jenkins file, we can write both scripted syntax and also declarative syntax. Both we can define single Jenkins job. That is also it is possible. Okay, but still again I'm repeating, 99% will be use the declarative pipeline only real time. Okay, very rare cases if you have any complex logic you have to write, right, then scripted pipeline is best option. And when it comes to that defining declarative pipeline, will be defined pipeline tag we have open close. Inside the pipeline tag open close will be defined that particular declared pipeline related one. And when it comes to the scripted pipeline, we can define node open close. We can define that node open close. Understand? Let me show you the example so that you will get some idea how do we define both in this pipeline. And here you can see that if you see here pipeline, agent any, stages, this is the stage, steps, script. If you see here definition, we are defining name is equal to techworldwithmurali. So this one is a scripted pipeline syntax. Whatever we define here, right? This one, scripted pipeline syntax. Understand, right? Inside the Jenkins file, we can define both declarative syntax and also scripted syntax as well. We can use it. Okay, now you understood, right? And you can go here. Next one is flexibility. Coming to the flexibility, in the declarative pipeline, limited to preferred structure, predefined structure. But when it comes to the scripted pipeline, right, very flexible. We can write complex logic as well inside this particular scripted pipeline. And coming to that error handling, built-in options like post, when, etc. There are multiple things available. But when it comes to the scripted pipeline, we can write try catch block is required manually. We need to be write the particular one if you require any error handling. And next one, best suitable for simple to moderate complex CI/CD pipeline will be use this particular declarative pipeline. But when it comes to the scripted pipeline, right, complex logic, dynamic stages, and conditional we required will be use this particular scripted pipeline. And coming to the parallel execution, yes, it is supported, easier to implement. But here in the scripted pipeline also, yes, it will be support that particular parallel execution, but more verbose and manual process required. Okay, and then tooling support, better support in Jenkins UI and also editor. It means like, as I said, inside the Jenkins job, we can edit, right? But when it comes to the scripted pipeline, it is a limited UI support. We can write inside the Jenkins file, but when it comes to the UI support, right, it is limited only. Understand, right? And coming to the example, I can show you so that you will get more idea. So don't worry on this one. Just I'm explaining the theory part. Once you understand theory part, when you go to the inside that the practical, you will get more idea. Here you can see the pipeline tag, pipeline open close, and the agent any means whether it will be run either in the master node or sleeve node, whatever it is available. And here you can see the stages. As I said, inside the inside Jenkins pipeline tag, inside the pipeline tag, we can define only one stages. Inside the stages, we can define multiple stages. If you see here, build the stage, test stage, and the deploy stage. We can define multiple. Inside the stage, we can define the steps. The particular steps we are giving here echo command. Echo building that particular one. Understand? Here we can define like this as well. So this is the declarative pipeline. But when it comes to the scripted pipeline, right? And here you can see that we need to be use node, open, close. And here you can see that define the particular stage, build stage, test stage, and the deploy stage. Okay, we can define this particular one. Here you have to remember, mostly we'll be use the declarative pipeline only. You should be aware of declarative pipeline. If you are not aware of scripted pipeline, that is fine. Scripted syntax, that is fine. It is not mandatory to know that. But if you have time, just have a look at that particular scripted pipeline as well, how it will be set up, so that you will get more idea. Okay, but again, I'm repeating, in real time, we always use the declarative pipeline only. Okay, declarative syntax. And also here you can see the summary I have defined here, and use declarative pipeline when you want to do simpler syntax and clear structure. You can go with this particular declarative one. And also you are working in teams with mixed experience. You can go with this particular one. You prefer built-in validation and UI support, you can go this particular declarative only. And when it comes to the scripted one, right, you need dynamic behavior or advanced logic, you can go with this particular scripted one. And you are comfortable with Groovy scripting, and also you need full control over pipeline execution, you can go with this particular scripted pipeline only. Okay, but again, I'm repeating, sorry to repeat multiple times, we always use the declarative pipeline only. You should be aware of declarative pipeline. In interview level also, they may ask question, what is the major difference between declarative and scripted pipeline? Can I define a single Jenkins file? Can I use both those declarative syntax and scripted syntax? Yes, we can define both declarative syntax and scripted syntax as well. Okay, clear, right? Any questions now? If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn, Instagram, Telegram. And also we have a Tech World with Murali website. In this website, I already published all the DevOps related courses. DevOps, AWS, Kubernetes, Terraform, AWS networking, DevOps hands-on project. Here we have a 1 month, 6 months, 1 year lifetime access available. If you want, you can enroll here. Still, if you have any questions, feel free to comment. I will try to respond as soon as possible. Thanks for watching this video. We'll see next video. Now we are going to discussing about understanding fields in a declarative pipeline. Let's see that so that you will get some idea. Inside the declarative pipeline, right, what are the options available, everything we can discuss so that you will get some idea. So first thing, right, here valid declarative pipeline must be defined within the pipeline block. As I said, inside the pipeline block only, we need to define that particular required, we need to define that step-by-step process, what exactly you wanted to do. And here you have to remember, inside the pipeline, few of the mandatory fields available. So what are those things? We can see it here. One is agent one. Agent one, where exactly you wanted to run that particular Jenkins job, we can define inside the pipeline. And this particular agent is the main one. It means like once you return the pipeline open close, agent is the first line of you have to write. Okay, and stages, and also we have a stage and then steps. So these are the 4 mandatory options. Inside the Jenkins file, we need to be define that one. Okay, now I understood, right? And also along with this particular 4, we do have other things as well. And here you can see that environment variable, environment option. If you want, you can if you want to be define any environment variables, right, we can define this particular environment variable. We can define at the stage level, and also pipeline level also we can define. Entire pipeline level we can define, and also inside the stage we have a stage, right? In the particular stage level also we can define that particular one. Okay, and here you can see that input also we can define a stage level, and then next one options we can define at the stage level and also pipeline level as well. Stage level, pipeline level means, let me show you here so that you will get some idea. Pipeline level means here after this agent, right, we can define here environment variable, everything. Stage level means inside this particular stage we can define. Example, inside this particular stage, after steps, right? Here we can define. Example, if you want to be define environment variable, we can define. If you want to be define any options, we can define pipeline level and also inside the stage level as well. Understand, right? Fine. Now here parallel. In case if you want to run that particular Jenkins job parallelly, we can define that one as well. And parameters, build with parameters, if remember we use, right? The parameters also we can define and post, okay, and also script and also tools, retry, triggers, and also when there are multiple options available. Okay, understand that? Environment, input, options, parallel, parameters, post, script, tools, triggers, and when. Okay, these are the things available. First, we can understand agent one. Here you have to remember, as I said, inside the Jenkins file, when you are writing the Jenkins file, we have a pipeline open close, right? If you see here we have a pipeline open close. Inside the pipeline open close, we need to define the particular agent. This particular agent we can define in the pipeline level, and also we can define inside the stage level also we can define. Example, here we have a build job, build stage. Inside the build stage, if you want to be use different agent, we can define that one as well. Okay, that's why here you can see that, right? And here most important, this particular agent, it is top level inside the pipeline block. Inside the pipeline block, that is the top level. As I said, right? We have a pipeline open close, then we have to define the agent. Okay, where you want to be run it. If you define here agent any, it will be run it whether it is in the master node or slave node, whatever it is available. In case if you want to be run this particular agent in the specific slave node, right? What you can do, we can define the label name, the particular label name match, the job will be run the particular worker node. Okay, understand, right? And here you can see that example, pipeline open close agent any. It means this whatever we are going to be define this particular pipeline job, the particular Jenkins file inside the pipeline we mentioned that the job is going to be run it either in the master node or slave node, because I mentioned that any. If you want to be run it a specific slave node, you can define that agent label name we have to define. Okay, if it the particular label name match, the job will be run it in the particular slave node. Okay, fine. Now what is the next one? Stages. As I said, inside the Jenkins inside the pipeline tag, stages is the only one we can define. Inside the stages, we can define multiple stages. Inside the stages, we can define multiple stages. Here you can see that pipeline open close agent any, we already discussed stages open close. Again, I'm repeating, inside the pipeline block, we can define only one stages. Inside the stages, we can define multiple stages. This is the one of the most important question intro level, whether you really written the Jenkins file or not, they can easy to know. Hey Murli, we have a pipeline block, right? Can it define multiple stages inside the pipeline block? No. Inside the pipeline block, we can define multiple single stages only. Inside the stages, we can define multiple stages. We can define the multiple stages. Understand, right? Fine. Now we can see it here. Stage, right? Inside the declarative pipeline, inside the particular stages, we can define that multiple. What you can say? We can define that particular stage. Inside the stages, we can define multiple stages. Okay, understand, right? And here you can see that example. Here you can see the example. I have defined that particular diagram as well. Here, clone the repository. This is the one of the stage. Build the code. This is one of the stage. And deploy to WAR file in the Tomcat environment. That is one of the stage. We can define that inside the stages. Again, I'm repeating, guys. Inside the stages, we can define multiple stages. If example, if you see here, this is the stage. This is the open close. Here it is the open. It is the close. Inside the stages, we can define multiple. Example, I can define like this. First one is clone the repository. Okay. And then next one is clone the repository. Example, guys, I'm defining here. Okay. Later we can write it in detail. If you see here, these are the stages. Inside the stages, we can define multiple stages. Okay. Clear, right? Any questions now? Now you understood, right? Inside the Jenkins pipeline block, we have an agent. Inside the, then we have a stages. Inside the stages, we can define the stage. Example, clone the repository, build the code, deploy to WAR file, whatever, we can define that. Later I will show you so that you will get some idea. And one of the most important, inside this particular stage, we need to be define at least steps. Must be define the steps. If you see here, we have a steps. Example, what you can do, right? Example, if you want to be run that specific command. Okay. Inside the steps, we need to be define the steps. Inside the steps, we need to define example echo command. If you go here, I'm going to show you here. Example here, you can see that inside the steps, we have defined the steps. Here we can see that echo building. Example here, I'm giving that sample one, guys. But in real time, we'll be having that shell commands, everything we can define here. Bash command, the PowerShell commands, everything we can define. And also I'm going to showcase here example. If you see here, steps sh command, single quotation means we can run it only one command. If you want to be run multiple quotation, multiple commands, right? What you can do inside the steps, we can define sh 3 single quotations. We can run that. We can define the multiple commands. We can define the multiple commands. Again, I'm repeating. In case inside the steps, if you want to be define multiple commands, what you can do? You have to give the 3 single quotations open, 3 single quotations close. Here we need to be define it. Clear, right? Now, if it is a Windows, right? How do we define? Example here, you can see that steps and bat ambient clean deploy PowerShell. If it is a PowerShell, right, we can directly define like this. Okay, clear, right? Again, I'm repeating here. Go here. As I said, pipeline open, close, agent any stages. Inside the stages, we need to be define the stage. We can define multiple stages inside the stages, and inside the stage, we must be define the steps. Inside the steps, you can define whatever commands, any commands you can define. So these are the mandatory fields, guys. One is pipeline, agent, stages, stage, steps. Remaining all are optional, depends on our requirement. Will be define that. Okay, will be define that. And coming to that option block, if you go here, we do have option block. Here we can define that options, like example. Here we have a build discorder. Okay, how many builds you want to be maintained, how many days you need to be maintained. If you remember in freestyle job, we have defined, right? Same thing, if you want to be defined inside the Jenkins file, what you can do, we can use option block. There we can define that build a discorder and also disable concurrent builds. It means, like example, this particular Jenkins job, it is running, if you run multiple times, right? If you disable this concurrent job, what will happen? This particular build will be, the particular build will be run at a time only one. The particular build will be run at a time only one time. Remaining will be waiting state. Okay, understand, right? And then here you can see the timestamp. If you remember in the logs, if you want to be enable the timestamp, we have defined inside the freestyle job, right? Same thing, if you want to be defined inside that pipeline block, what you can do, we can use this particular timestamp inside the options block. We can define, and then override index trigger we don't require. Skip a default checkout, you can ignore it. This one also we won't be skip stages after unstable, checkout to subdirectory, new container per stage, and timeout. In case if you want to define that timeout option, we can do it here. Retry also we can define it. Especially, guys, in real time, will be used. One is build discorder, disable concurrent builds, and timestamps. And very rare cases will be used either timeout or retry. Understand? So these are the options we'll be using. And also I'm going to show you that example. And as I said, we will be used majorly 3. And here you can see that one is pipeline options tag. Inside the pipeline, we need to define after agent. After agent, we need to be define this options block. We can define, and here you can see that, right? Build discorder, log rotator, number to keep. We mentioned that 10. It means it will be maintain the maximum 10 builds. Okay, latest 10 builds it will be defined, and also disable concurrent builds. And here you can see that disable concurrent builds we mentioned. It means if you have a Jenkins job, the particular Jenkins job, if someone is if it trigger multiple times, right? At a time only one build will be run. Remaining builds will be waiting state. Here it won't be run parallelly if you use this particular disable concurrent builds. Okay, and then timestamp. Here we can define the timestamps open close. We can define this particular inside the options block. So these are the mandatory, I mean not mandatory, frequently will be used it in the real time. Apart from that, timeout and also retry also will be used it. That is depends on our requirement. Okay, clear, right? Any questions now? Fine. And tools declaration. If you remember in the freestyle job, what we did, if you want to be define, build the code, right? Maven code, what we did, we selected the specific version, right? Inside that Maven integration time, we selected the specific version, right? Similarly, when you are defining, when you are triggering through Jenkins pipeline, inside the Jenkins file, pipeline tag or the pipeline block, right? We can define the tools declaration as well. Okay, what type of what type of what you can say, like example, in this particular tools declaration, we can define three only. One is Maven JDK Gradle versions. We can define when you are build that particular job, right? During that time, depends on we have defined that particular tools version. It will be use it. Okay, and here you have to remember tools declaration. We can define pipeline block and also stage level. Each stage we can define that tools declaration if required, depends on our requirement. Especially in the real time, right? 99% we always use the tools declaration at the top. It means pipeline block, pipeline level only instead of stage level. Stage level means here you can see that, guys. Don't confuse. Stage means inside the stages. Here also we can use these tools. We can mention tools, open, close. We can define here as well. Okay. Instead of that one, what we'll do? We'll be define here tools, open, close, and then we can define our Maven, Gradle, and also JDK versions we can define. These are the three only it will be support, guys. Okay, clear, right? Any questions? And here you have to remember when you define this particular tools level. Okay, example, you are defining the Maven. Okay, the particular Maven related one you should be defined inside the global tool configuration. Inside the global tool configuration, you have to define Maven, the particular name of that particular one, and which version you are going to be use it. Everything you have to configure. If you remember when you build that Jenkins job, during that time global tool configuration we went and we have selected, we have given the name Maven 3.9.8 something version, we mentioned that, and then we did, right? Similar only here also when you are integrated with Maven, right? So when you integrate with Jenkins file, what you have to do? You have to define first global tool configuration. The particular global tool configuration, whatever you mention that particular name, same name needs to be defined inside the tools declaration. Okay. If the particular version, whatever example Maven version is not installed, it will be installed during that particular build time. Okay. Now here you can see that example I'm showcasing pipeline tools open close Maven 3.8.3 example, guys. Maven 3.8.3. Here you have to remember whatever we mentioned this particular version, it needs to be defined. This particular Maven 3.8.9 inside the global tool configuration we need to define. Then only you have to define here, guys. You need to be declare here, and also same JDK as well, Gradle as well. Whatever, everything you need to be defined global tool configuration. Whatever global tool configuration you have given the name of the particular one, the particular name you can define here. When you are build that job, it will be use the particular, it will be refer the particular global tool configuration name, and then it will be, if it is not installed the particular one, it will be installed. Okay, clear, right? Fine. And coming to the post declaration, especially, guys, this post declaration, if you want to be send any notification. Okay, example that my job is completed, I need to send the notification. My one of stage is completed. Example, clone the repository is completed, I need to send the notification. Example I'm telling. Then what you can do, right? We can use the post declaration. Here you have to remember post declaration, we can define pipeline level and also stage level. Each individual stage level also we can define, and also pipeline level also we can define this particular post declaration. Understand, right? And here we do have multiple post declarations. One is always. Always, if you use the inside the post declaration, if you use the always, what is happening, right? Whether the particular Jenkins job succeed, fail, or doesn't matter. Once the build is completed, it will be run the post, the particular always option. Okay, the particular post declaration, it will be run. Okay, next one is changed one. Example, execute only if the completion results in the different state than previous one. Example, previously it was running fine, successful. Now it is failed. Now it will, if you want to be trigger this particular post declaration, we can use this particular changed one. Example, previously it succeed. Now it is failed. Previously failed. Now it is succeed. Now if you want to be send trigger the particular post declaration, we can use this particular one. Okay. Now next one is fixed one. Example, only if the completion is successful and previous one is failed. Example, previous job is failed. Now you have fixed the particular one. If you want to be trigger this particular post declaration, whatever you define, then what you can do, we can use this particular fixed one. Next one is regression. Okay, and here execution only if current execution fails, aborted, or unstable, and previous one is successful. Previous job is successful. Okay, now whatever running current one, if it is failed, one. If it is aborted, if it is unstable, then you need to be send the notification. Post declaration we can define. Inside the post declaration, we can define the regression. Okay, clear, right? Now what is the next one? Aborted. Aborted means here you have to remember any steps. Example, when you are doing the clone the repository is aborted. Okay, aborted. Then what you have to do, if you want to be send that notification, whatever, not the notification, if you want to be execute that post declaration, what you can do, we can use the aborted one. Next one is failure one. Okay, and if you, either it is a pipeline level or whether it is stage level, the particular one is failed. If you want to be trigger this particular post declaration, what you can do, we can use the failure. Okay, failure. And also we do have success. It means like the particular pipeline or stage succeed. Then what you have to do, if you want to be execute this particular one in the post declaration, what you can do, you can use this particular success. Okay, and also unstable as well. Example, you have a Jenkins job, the particular Jenkins job, whether it is unstable in pipeline level or stage level, then what you can do, we can use the post this particular whatever we define the post declaration, it will be work. Clear, right? And also example, I'm going to show you. Here we define that options, post, open, close, always, open, close. Here you can see that echo, congratulations, you have successfully run the Jenkins job. Here I have given that always. Always means whether Jenkins job is failed or succeed doesn't matter. This particular whatever we define the post section, it will be triggered. And one more thing, remember again, I'm repeating, this post option we can define entire pipeline level, and also we can define the each stage level also we can define. Depends on our requirement where we can define, guys. Okay, clear, right? Next thing is triggers declaration. If you remember, when you are running that, when you are setting the freestyle job, there we have a three options, two options. One is like, what is that? Cron tab, pole SCM, right? Billy periodical and pole SCM. Similarly, instead of defining whatever we define inside the freestyle job, right? Same thing in the pipeline block also, we can define the triggers option. What we can do here, example, here there are different types of triggers declaration we have. One is cron tab. Example, if you define the cron tab, right, what will happen, right? Whether the changes is there or not doesn't matter in that particular code. That job will be always run. Example, I have mentioned that every 1 hour I need to run the Jenkins job, it will be triggered. And also this cron tab is similar to build periodical, guys. In freestyle job, we have a build periodical, right? Once you define this cron tab inside that Jenkins file, once the particular option will be enabled in the pipeline, that build periodical option will be enabled. Okay. Now what is the next one? Pole SCM. Coming to the pole SCM, right? Here, similar to what we saw that in the freestyle job, we have a pole SCM. If any changes is occur during that particular specific time inside that particular GitHub in that code, either in the GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, whatever, guys. Okay, then only this particular job will be run. Example, I have mentioned that I need to run this particular Jenkins job every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes run. When if we have any changes in between that particular 5 minutes, if you have any changes in that particular GitHub or Bitbucket or GitLab, this particular job will be running. Understand, right? Next one is this particular pole SCM is supporting from Jenkins 2.2, and here you can see the upstream job as well. In case if you want to be define that particular upstream jobs needs to be triggered, right? If you remember in Jenkins freestyle job, we have upstream and downstream jobs, right? So similarly, if you want to be defined, we can use this upstream option. Remember, upstream we may not be used much. Okay, earlier a few years back we were using upstream and downstream jobs when we were using freestyle jobs, but when it comes to that pipeline, right, we may not be used much upstream and downstream jobs. Okay, clear, right? Very rare cases. And then you can see the example so that you will get some idea. And here you can see the cron tab, pipeline, open, close, agent, any. And here I'm mentioning the triggers, open, close. Example, I'm defining that cron tab x by 5 means every 5 minutes it will be trigger star star star. If you remember, you are aware of, right, build periodically cron tab syntax. Okay, it means every 5 minutes it will be run it, whether made changes in code or not doesn't matter. This particular one cron tab will be run. It means build periodically will be run it, and the job will be triggered automatically every 5 minutes. Second thing is pole SCM. Pole SCM, here you can see that open close agent any triggers whole SCM h by 5. It means every 5 minutes it will be trigger when if made any changes in code. If you have any changes in the code during that time 5 minutes, it will be trigger. If not, again it will check next 5 minutes, next 5 minutes, next 5 minutes. It will be trigger every time. Okay. Now what is the next one? Upstream jobs. And here you can see that pipeline, open, close, agent, any triggers. And here you can see the upstream project, job 1, job 2, threshold, the particular success. Okay. This particular execute when either job 1 or job 2 are successful. If any job 1 or job 2 is successful, right, then only it will be triggered this particular Jenkins job. So this particular upstream we may not be used much. You don't want to be worried on that one. Especially we'll be used either cron tab, either Polysium, depends on our requirement. Okay, clear, right? Any questions? Now you got some idea, right? Later, I will show you the demo as well. Everything, whatever I have explained, everything, I will be showing the demo with clone the repository, build the code, and store the artifacts in the Nexus or JFrog, build the Docker image, push to Docker Hub, AWS ECR. Everything I will be showcase that so that you will get some idea. Now you understood, right? What are the options available? What are the uses of the particular options? One of the most important, guys, if you understand these particular options, whenever you need, you will get some idea in your, you will get some ideas so that you can easy to implement. Example, in Jenkins job, we have a build with parameters. Okay. If you set up the freestyle job, right, during that time, we can use the build with parameters. We can do that. Similarly, same thing we can implement, same thing we can implement using Jenkins file as well. Okay. Now you will get, okay, I need to implement parameter as well. How do we do parameters exactly? So you will get some idea. So for that one, you should be aware of whatever I have explained the options. Okay. And also this particular PPT also I will be uploading our Tech World with Murali DevOps 0 to Hero series so that you can download from there and you can have a look at that particular documentation as well. Okay, clear, right? And also I will be updating here, understanding fields and directives. What are the fields available in this particular declarative pipeline? I will be update here as well so that you will get some idea. Any questions now? If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me by LinkedIn, Instagram, Telegram. And also we have a Tech Call with Murali website. In this website, I already published all the DevOps related courses. DevOps, AWS, Kubernetes, Terraform, AWS networking, DevOps hands-on project, and also Helm 0 to Hero. And here we have a 1 month, 6 months, 1 year lifetime access available. If you want, you can enroll here. Still, if you have any questions, feel free to comment. I will try to respond as soon as possible. Thanks for watching this video. We'll see you next video.